The Roman legionnaire who conquered the ancient world didn't run on glory. He ran on 300 grams of hard-aged cheese, issued every single day as a standard military ration, right alongside his grain, his olive oil, and his salt. Cheese wasn't a luxury in ancient Rome. It was infrastructure. And the story of how that happened reveals something extraordinary about the civilization that shaped the entire Western world. To understand why cheese was so central to Roman life, you have to understand how the Roman food system actually worked. Rome fed a civilization of 60 to 80 million people across 3 continents, without refrigeration, without modern preservation technology, and without any global supply chain. The foods that survived in that system were the ones that were calorie-dense, shelf-stable, and easy to transport in bulk. Grain made hardtack, olives made oil, and milk, which spoiled in days, became cheese, which lasted weeks or months without spoiling. Cheese was Rome's answer to the protein problem at imperial scale. The Roman agricultural writer Columella documented the entire process of cheese production in exhaustive detail in the 1st century AD, and what he described was not a cottage craft. It was a fully industrialized agricultural operation running at the scale of an empire. The Roman legions were the most physically demanding military organization the ancient world had ever produced. A Roman legionnaire was expected to march 20 miles in full armor every day on campaign, carrying up to 60 pounds of equipment, and then build a complete fortified camp before nightfall. The caloric demand of that routine was extraordinary, and Roman military planners calculated rations with the same precision that modern armed forces use today. Hard-aged cheese appeared on every single one of those ration lists. The tactical advantages were enormous. Cheese required no cooking fire, no preparation, and no water. It could be carried in a leather pack or a wax-sealed clay container for weeks without spoiling, in any climate the legions operated in, from the deserts of North Africa to the forests of Germania. Military historians have argued convincingly that Roman standardization of cheese as a field ration was one of the key logistical advantages that allowed the legions to operate at a pace and distance no other ancient military force could match. Roman cheesemaking was not guesswork. It was a precise, documented science recorded in extraordinary detail by some of the most educated minds in the ancient world. The poet Virgil wrote about cheesemaking in his Georgics. Pliny the Elder ranked Roman cheese varieties by region and quality in his Encyclopedia Natural Historia. And Columella wrote a complete step-by-step cheesemaking manual that reads, in translation, with remarkable similarity to a modern artisan cheese guide. The Romans used animal rennet, extracted from the dried stomach lining of young unweaned goats and calves, to coagulate fresh milk in large clay or wooden vessels. The resulting curds were cut, pressed into wooden molds, heavily salted, and transferred to cool, stone-walled cellars to age. What the Romans understood, and documented explicitly, was that the aging environment changed everything. Cheese aged in sea air developed saltier profiles. Cheese aged over specific wood smoke took on different characteristics entirely. This was not accidental observation. It was intentional craft, refined over generations and committed to writing, which is precisely why Roman cheesemaking techniques did not disappear when the empire did. One of the most revealing aspects of Roman cheese culture is how it existed simultaneously across every level of society. For the Roman poor and working class, the everyday cheese experience was a dish called moretum, a thick paste of hard cheese pounded in a stone mortar with raw garlic, fresh herbs, salt, and olive oil, spread thickly on coarse grain bread. The dish was so deeply embedded in working Roman life that Virgil wrote an entire 124-line poem describing a poor farmer preparing his moretum before sunrise. At the other end of the social spectrum, Rome's wealthy elite ate cheese in an entirely different register. Premium aged regional varieties served at formal dinner parties alongside imported wines, debated for their regional origin and aging quality, with the same seriousness that modern sommeliers bring to single vineyard vintages. Pliny the Elder's Natural Historia contains an actual ranking system for the best cheese-producing regions of the Roman Empire, rating them by flavor profile and quality. A classification document that has a direct, unbroken intellectual lineage to Europe's modern, protected cheese designation laws. If you are finding this as fascinating as we do, right now is a great moment to hit that like button and subscribe to Origins of Cheese. Every week, we go deeper into the history of the foods that built human civilization, and what is coming in the next few episodes is genuinely extraordinary. Subscribe now so you do not miss it. Roman literature doesn't just tell us that Romans ate cheese. It tells us specifically which cheeses they preferred, where those cheeses came from, and what made each variety worth naming. Lunense was perhaps the most celebrated premium cheese in the empire, a large pressed hard variety from the Luni region of northwestern Italy, sold in Rome's central markets by the pound, praised repeatedly in Roman texts as a product worth traveling to obtain. Vestine cheese, from the rugged central Apennine Mountains, was described as particularly firm, sharp, and ideal for travelers, exactly the nutritional profile you want in a military ration. The Romans also produced what ancient texts called caseus bubulus, cheese made from the milk of water buffalo grazing in the marshy lowlands of central Italy. And food historians have noted striking similarities between caseus bubulus and modern mozzarella di bufala. The geographic overlap between ancient Roman water buffalo territory and the modern DOP-protected production zone for mozzarella is not coincidence. Rome's imperial reach also meant contact with cheese cultures across Gaul, Britannia, and North Africa, and the Romans adopted, adapted, and often refined every cheese tradition they encountered. Roman cuisine was not bland, and it was not simple. The Romans possessed a fully developed cooking culture with professional chefs, dedicated cookbook authors, and a sophisticated understanding of flavor that would surprise most modern cooks. And cheese was embedded in that culture in ways that feel remarkably contemporary. The oldest surviving cookbook in the Western world, Apicius, compiled in the 4th or 5th century AD, contains multiple preparations in which cheese functions as a primary ingredient. Romans grated hard-aged cheese over olive oil-dressed flatbreads, a preparation any pizza lover will immediately recognize as something foundational. They folded soft, fresh cheese into beaten eggs with herbs and baked the result in terracotta dishes, a technique mapping almost exactly onto modern frittata. They pounded cheese with honey, black pepper, and pine nuts into a sweet spread served as an opener at formal dinner parties. And Roman bakers produced a celebratory cheese and honey cake called libum, baked from fresh cheese, spelt flour, egg, and bay leaves, presented at religious ceremonies and family milestones throughout the year. The degree to which cheese was woven into Roman cooking at every occasion and every social level is genuinely staggering. When the Western Roman Empire fell in 476 AD, its political structures collapsed within a generation. But its food traditions did not disappear. They survived in exactly the places where the most durable forms of Roman knowledge always survived, in monasteries and rural farming communities that outlasted the emperors and armies above them. Medieval monks, many working directly from Roman agricultural texts they had copied and preserved through centuries of instability, became the primary custodians of advanced European cheesemaking knowledge. They refined Roman aging techniques, developed new regional varieties adapted to specific alpine or coastal environments, and traded their cheeses across regions along the same road networks Roman engineers had originally built. The direct lineage from Roman cheesemaking to modern European cheese culture is not theoretical. It is documented in monastic records, regional agricultural histories, and the names themselves. Pecorino Romano is literally named for Rome. Parmigiano Reggiano's production zone maps almost exactly onto a region of heavy Roman agricultural settlement. The French and Swiss cheese traditions that dominate the modern premium market have documented roots in the Gallo-Roman farming culture of the 1st and 2nd centuries AD. Rome did not just eat cheese every day. Rome made cheese permanent. Rome's relationship with cheese was not incidental. It was structural, deliberate, and documented at every level of one of the most sophisticated civilizations in human history. Romans industrialized cheese production at imperial scale, standardized it as the caloric backbone of the world's most effective military force, celebrated its regional varieties in literature with the seriousness we bring to fine wine today, embedded it as a core ingredient across their entire cooking tradition, and then passed all of that knowledge forward through the monasteries and farming communities that survived the empire's fall. Every wheel of Pecorino Romano you slice, every shard of aged Parmigiano you grate over pasta of a great French Alpine cheese, all of it carries a direct, unbroken chain of inheritance, stretching back to a Roman legionnaire packing a wedge of hard-aged cheese into his marching kit 2,000 years ago. That is not a metaphor. It is history, and it is remarkable. If something in today's episode genuinely surprised you, drop it in the comments right now. We read every single one, and we want to know which part of Rome's cheese story hit hardest. If you have not already, please hit the like button and subscribe to Origins of Cheese. We have a great deal more history to uncover together, and it only gets more fascinating from here. See you in the next one.